When you join the team that finished second in the Bundesliga last season, you don't expect a German Cup quarter-final to be the game that's going to make or break your season. But here we are. 25 games gone and I'm calling it. The league campaign is done. We are 14 points behind Dortmund, who are top of the table. We've suffered a couple more humiliating defeats. When we lose at Leverkusen, we lose big, as you'll see when we show you the form in a moment. Fourth place is still very much achievable. We can get them Champions League football, but when we moved here, we promised them a tilt at the title. And from match day one, we've not been within a country mile of delivering on that. I guess you might say if Leipzig were to fall apart, we could still potentially steal third place in the table. But I don't think we could even catch Bayern Munich in second. And we are also struggling to stay in the Champions League. A 4-2 win at home against Manchester United earlier on in the season meant that we comfortably progressed to the knockout stages. But unfortunately, the club we were drawn against is Chelsea. In the home leg, we were wretched. Chelsea had 2 goals disallowed, but Havertz still put them into the lead before half-time. A Mason Mount penalty made it 2-0. And in a game where we only had 2 shots on target the entire match, we could not afford defensive calamities such as this. So with 3 goals to overturn going to Stamford Bridge, I think we're out of the Champions League. We've had a couple more defeats in the league as well. After the winter break, our next game was against Mainz, a team who are above us in the table. But we looked pretty impressive in this game. We restricted Mainz to very few chances and we took the lead after 10 minutes ourselves. And of course, it was Peña that prodded home. And it was the great man that added the second for us as well. And a 2-0 victory against Mainz meant that I thought we might move up the table. To say I didn't see the next result coming would be an understatement. Having taken the lead against 17th place Nuremberg, disastrous goalkeeping meant that we then let them equalise. And Nuremberg then went into a 2-1 lead at the interval. But rather than get back into the game in the second half, Nuremberg scored a third, and then a fourth, and then a fifth. And by the time Alexi grabbed a consolation goal in the 90th minute, we were more like a charity than a football team. We were slightly better in a 2-2 draw with RB Leipzig, but they still had an XG above 2, whereas ours didn't even hit 1. And despite running out 3-1 winners against Frankfurt in our next encounter, this was really just papering over the cracks. We needed extra time to squeeze past Hertha Berlin in the cup before we took on Bayern once more. And despite it being a relatively even game, our own defence made sure that we went down to a heavy 4-1 defeat. We bounced back to winning ways, beating Wolfsburg 1-0, but made pretty heavy going of it. Before that Chelsea game led us to a little bit of a tactical reshuffle again. We are still playing a back 3, although the libero was gone. Instead, we've got a central defender trying to cover his 2 teammates. And further forward, rather than 2 wide players, we've now brought in a number 10 and a second striker, and in the couple of games since we made this switch, we've been a little bit better. A little better might be underselling it somewhat, as we managed to score 4 goals. We were in action against Werder Bremen and the team played well, and were good value for this 4-0 victory. And crucially, we've also kept 2 clean sheets since making these tactical changes as we beat Hertha Berlin 1-0. But today has the feel of a game that's pretty much all we've got left to play for. Dortmund are already out of the cup, but Bayern loom ominously still in there, and Mainz and Leipzig, 2 teams above us in the league, are also still in the cup. I think we've probably been handed the best draw we possibly could with an away tie against Paderborn, who we also play in the league in 3 days' time as well. Let's have a look at the squad that we're going to send out to try and get us into a Pokal semi-final. So let's update you on some unorthodox management. Take notes, please, people. You're playing a 3-at-the-back system when you only have 2 centre-halves at the club, and now you've massively fallen out and transfer listed one of those players. After the Bayern Munich game, where we threw the water bottle, central defender Junior stormed into the office and complained about how his feelings were hurt following our tough words at the end of that game. We told him that he should pipe down. He said he had no intention of doing so. We threatened him with the transfer list and he told us he doesn't even care because he knows we won't follow through on it. So we followed through on it. We slapped him on the transfer list. We offered him out. A raft of Brazilian clubs all came in for him and he's agreed a deal to join one of those. We've delayed it a week because I'm not sure whether we are just cutting our nose off to spite our face. But I like the idea of kicking him out of the club now. just for his insolence. He's not going to be playing today, which means that our star midfielder, who has been playing left back, is now going to go in at centre back. But I think Alessandro Pereira can play anywhere, and with jumping reach of 8, he would be a slightly taller option to play there than Thomas Vasquez, who is only 5'6" and has a jumping reach of 4. Gone are the wingers now, so we're not having to play Moussa Diaby, who was never really performing. Mendes has gone in up front. We've now got a midfield triumvirate of Ceratosa, Renier and Reeder, and we still have strength on the bench in the form of Victor Manzano, who could comfortably come into that midfield and be branded as world-class. And up front, we have been trying to get Yorobi to retrain as a striker. He could play there, but also coming off the bench for this front two is Alexi, who I think is a pretty decent player. He's certainly pretty quick and will dribble at the opposition defence. So I think we've got some options with this system. Hopefully, it's going to be enough to see us into a semi-final of the Cup against today's opponents, Paderborn. On paper, Paderborn look beatable. They're 13th in the league, although they were promoted as champions from Bundesliga 2 last season. In the dugout, Dominic Drexler has been in charge for 2 seasons, and despite beating Köln in the 3rd round of the Cup, they have been on a poor run of form. This will be an away tie, but we must be favourites as Paderborn take on Leverkusen. So to call this a must-win game, I think is somewhat of an understatement. I don't see us scoring 4 goals away against Chelsea. I don't see us making up 14 odd points in the league to mount a title challenge. I think it's the German Pokal or nothing this season, and with Mainz, RB Leipzig and Bayern Munich all still in the competition, even that is a massive long shot, but at least a semi-final berth might just keep the board happy going into the final stage of the season. There's been no extra discussion about the sack, although we're down in 5th place. The board don't seem overly concerned. We've got a managerial rating of a C. They think that we're in a title battle because still mathematically we could climb our way back in. But I think that is long gone and a forlorn hope that maybe a cup win is still on the agenda, as Peña, a man who without I think we would be in desperate shape, has put us into the lead after 17 minutes. Chernyshov builds up from the back. Ceratosa dissects their defence with a good ball, and Pedrozzini, who's playing at left back in order to facilitate Pereira playing as part of a back 3, sends the ball in for Peña to prod home. And on 41 minutes, we've got another highlight. It's a free kick. I'm going to imagine Reeder is on it. In fact, it's Ceratosa, and he has curled the ball narrowly over the bar. Before we kick off that second half, it's worth checking in on the other quarter-final results because RB Leipzig are losing to Mainz. I would definitely rather play Mainz, who we've beaten this season, than RB Leipzig, who we've only drawn with. And then Bayern have missed a penalty in their game against Hamburg. If Hamburg could pull off a shock result in that game, that would be like Christmas coming early or late, seeing as we're in March now. And Borussia Mönchengladbach are also in the lead against Nuremberg, a team that I'm not eager to play, even though they're lower down in the table after they scored 5 goals against us earlier in the season. We will be keeping an eye on Hamburg. I would love it if we could get into the semi-final and Bayern could get knocked out as RB Leipzig score an equaliser in their game against Mainz. And we've got a free kick wide at the edge of the area, and Chernyshov scores what might just be his first goal of the season. I think they're checking it for offside. How you can be offside from a free kick, I still have no idea. He wasn't. The goal is rewarded, and he has nodded a header home at the far post to put us 2-0 into the lead. Now we just got to keep a 3rd clean sheet in 3 games running, and we're going to be in the Cup semi-final. Bad news, Jude Bellingham has scored for Bayern in their game, so they are 1-0 up. As we have another set-piece play to try and score a 3rd goal. You can see that RB Leipzig have also taken the lead in their game, so it looks like some of the big teams are going to be potentially joining us in the semi-final, if we are indeed to make it that far, because Paderborn have gone through, and they have pulled a goal back. And maybe with 9 minutes left to play, this result is not as done a deal as I hoped it was. It's a long punt forward from their goalkeeper. In fact, there's absolutely no marking in the central midfield at all, and a ball behind our defence means that they race clear and pull it back to 2-1. How the not-so-mighty have fallen. I've put time wasting on against Paderborn in the Cup, and they've got an attacking set play, which we might just counter on now. Ceratosa brings the ball forward. Alexi has just come on for Mendes, and now Manzano, another substitute, is through. He's one-on-one with the keeper. The keeper pulls off a good stop. Can we do something from the corner? We've been pretty good from set plays. Pena can be a bit of an aerial presence in that box. He's the man we look for. It's a terrible ball in. We've still got 4 minutes to play. We're deep into injury time now. We do have another highlight. We've got 4 minutes of added on time. So this should be a proper highlight. We're deep into their territory with a throw-in. Can we work the ball into the box? Ceratosa, can we wrap the game up? Mihajlic has a shot. Fortunately, it's high and wide. We've got a minute to navigate. Pena's coming forward now. He's got acres of space for Mendoza down the right-hand side. Just use up the time, son. In fact, he's done a good job. He's run it into the corner. Now he delivers. Pedrozzini plays it across. Alexi nods home. The substitute makes it 3-1. We are safely into the semi-final of the Cup. Our season is still alive. But have Hamburg managed to get a late equaliser against Bayern to force that game into extra time? And have Mainz managed to make a comeback against RB Leipzig to give us a helping hand in the semi-finals? We'll check those results out at the end of the game. Well, we got our win, but there were no fairy tales elsewhere. Veteran Jude Bellingham sends Bayern into the semi-finals of the Cup, and RB Leipzig make progress as well, but we could get a very tough draw in the semis. We're still a week away from that semi-final draw, but just to bring you up to date on the job news, we are hunting around, but there are no big jobs to apply for at the moment. There are some top-level jobs in Turkey, for example. I think we've been there. We've won that league. We are waiting for another big job to come up in a top 5 league that we could use for our final season of FM22 Mercenary.